good afternoon. I'm here today in the studio, which, by the way, I just want to tell everyone, if you haven't looked at the weather report, you should. Because even though today it's gross and rainy and cold, it feels cold outside. It's cold. I have slippers on, like winter slippers. I looked at the weather report yesterday, and it's supposed to be like in the 80s, like mid to high 80s by the end of the week.
Beach day.
Where did spring go? Like, we had spring for 2 days. Come on, I want more spring. Anyway, this is not spring. This is like pre-spring. I want real spring.
We've got the mud from spring, though.
Right? Much mud. Anyway, welcome. I'm excited to jump back into interviews. I've had a couple of hiccups the last several times I've tried, so I hope y'all enjoy today. I'm here with Emily Lindblad.
Yes.
Oh my word. I'm going to have such a hard time with this last name. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
3 birds, family education, and postpartum
care.
I almost had it. Anyway, awesome. So we're going to jump in. I'm going to talk to Emily. You guys, listen in. If you have questions, hi. That's my husband saying hi, y'all. If you have questions, feel free to ask. And when we see them, we'll answer them. So, awesome. Hi, Emily.
Hi.
First of all, tell me who you are.
So I am, first and foremost, a mom of triplets. That's kind of my main gig these days. I've got 1 son and 2 daughters. They're 5. And life is a very crazy adventure.
Right.
But,
with 1 5-year-old, it's a crazy adventure.
Yeah, I can't, at this point, I can't imagine it any differently.
Yeah.
So, like I said, that's kind of job number 1. Job number 2, I said 3 birds. I'm not even going to bother saying all of it.
From here on out, we'll just call it 3 birds.
Yeah,
we're good.
It's a little bit easier. And under kind of that umbrella, I provide postpartum, prenatal, and bereavement support to families in Massachusetts and families of multiples, specifically both in Mass and the U.S. and the U.K.
Really? Like all over? So I used to nanny for triplets, I was just telling you, but let's pretend I was their mom, as everyone used to think that I was. If I already had triplets and I was like, what am I doing? I need help. Like, I could find you online, and you would work with me.
Yeah, I do offer virtual expecting triplet classes through Twin Love Concierge, and also work as a virtual postpartum doula to families, so that even if you are somewhere where you don't have the local resources, that doesn't mean you're out of luck. You can find me or somebody else who offers similar services.
The internet is amazing.
It is. I don't really know what parents did beforehand, especially, when you are talking about kind of like very specific niche groups.
Right.
If you didn't know anybody local or you didn't know a friend of a friend who had been in a similar situation, you might just be stuck.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So, multiples. Let's talk about multiples for a little bit.
Sure.
How is being pregnant with multiples different than, what can you tell me? What's your best advice for being pregnant with multiples?
Well, the biggest thing to remember is even if it is on paper an easy, but most pregnancies aren't easy, but if it is officially an easy pregnancy, you're still categorized as a high-risk pregnancy.
Really?
Yeah, just automatically having a second or more
human being inside of you
does make it high risk. So you are going to be monitored more frequently. You're going to, be followed a lot more closely, especially in the later months.
Yeah.
For example, with triplets, I felt like I moved into my doctor's office. Not only did I have my midwife and my regular OB, I also had a maternal fetal medicine specialist who I saw. And, the team just kind of grows from there. When I actually delivered, I think there were maybe 30 people at least in the OR.
My word.
Because the parent who's giving birth has a team, and then each baby will have their own team.
Right.
So I volunteer at the NICU where my children were. And I ran into a nurse the other day who from my perspective, I had never met her before. She's like, "Oh, it's so nice to see you. How are the kids?" And I was like, "Good." And she's like, "You don't remember me, do you?" I was like, "I'm not anymore." And apparently she was there. She was on one of the kids' team she's like, oh, you were the first triplet delivery I'd ever seen. I was like, that's great. I have no memory of you being there. It's just, very chaotic and a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I think that's the biggest surprise that a lot of families of multiples see is just, all of a sudden your team goes from, your doctor, your midwife to all of a sudden, this.
And it doesn't happen just at the delivery. Like you're saying, it starts during pregnancy.
Yeah. And it just kind of snowballs from there.
Yeah. Wow. So, like, I've always been of advanced maternal age when I've had children, i.e. old. So, like, I've always been high. I don't know if they classify as high risk, but, like, they always want to do more ultrasounds and more appointments. So it's kind of similar to that. If it's a normal.
Yeah, and then within multiple pregnancies, there are kind of levels of, like, low risk multiple pregnancies, and there are higher risk, already high risk pregnancies. So there are a lot of factors that can go into it, but across the board, most of the time you are going to be seen a lot more frequently. Yeah, which is nice. You get kind of frequent check-ins, which can be really reassuring. Got lots of ultrasound pictures, from I think that our first one was at like 6 weeks all the way out.
Did you know you were having multiples right away?
We found out the first ultrasound they saw 3 but only 2 heartbeats. And I said, okay, we'll see. It's kind of
that's early.
Yeah, it's early. So we came back 2 weeks later and there were 3 heartbeats, and we were a little shocked. And then we went
Mom's
back.
heartbeat almost stopped. It sounds like.
I think I was more okay. I just didn't really realize what was happening. My husband was the one who was just like, I need a chair.
Right.
So then we went back 2 weeks from that, and they were taking a really long time. So I was like, did all the babies look okay? Yeah. All the heartbeats are still there. And they're like, we're just checking to make sure there's not a 4th in there. I was like, what? Are you kidding? What do you mean? She's like, no, I just want to make sure nothing's split. I'm like, okay.
Someone's hiding.
Don't say that again.
That's overwhelming. That would be overwhelming. It's so funny that, like, twins and triplets can seem normal, but quadruplets just sounds really astronomically overwhelming, which...
I think it's always, like, one more. Because I know a couple of moms who have quads, and they're always like, I don't know how people have twins do it.
Right.
Like, there's always somebody above you that like, hats off to.
Right. You're not worthy. Yeah. That's amazing. So, sorry, back to pregnancy with multiples. Is there anything that a mom can do to help keep from having a high risk pregnancy, or is it just kind of just luck of the draw?
I mean, some of it just comes down to what kind of multiples you have. Are they sharing a placenta? Are they sharing a sac?
I didn't even know that. Like, I know that makes sense, but I didn't even know that they could share a placenta, for instance. Like, how does that work? Holy cow, you've blown my mind already.
It has to do with kind of when the embryos implant and how that develops. So some of it, it's just totally out of your control. It's kind of luck of the draw. Yeah. As whereas some of it, is just being in tune with your body, really kind of following your body's lead. If you're exhausted and you're taking naps all the time, awesome. Take naps all the time. Just not pushing it. And following what your body needs. And then, I mean, honestly, it gets to a point where you can do everything you can, and the rest is kind of up to fate.
Yeah. So if somebody is pregnant with twins or triplets or quads or whatever, is there a certain point when it's like an automatic, you're having a C-section?
Usually with higher order multiples, so triplets and up. Okay. It's almost always a C-section. There are very few instances that I know of that have been vaginal deliveries. And with quads, I can't even think of one. I know a couple with triplets.
I can't think of one set of quads, so you're already there.
Of course, anybody who's watched This Is Us is going to be like panicking about the whole triplet.
Right.
Which actually is funny. A lot of triplet moms that I know, we were all watching it and like yelling at the two. What are you doing? What are you like? Yeah. That's either here or there. With the twins, though, it's not an automatic C-section.
Okay.
A lot of it has to do on kind of how you're doing, how the pregnancy progresses, what kind of twins you have, what risk factors are involved.
What do you mean, what kind of twins you have?
Again,
like boy, girl, or what do you mean?
So, like, if they're sharing a placenta, if they have their own, if they're in the same sac, if not. Each scenario has slightly different considerations.
Okay.
And then part of it comes down to your provider. Is your provider comfortable with, waiting for not an extended period of time, but giving time after the first baby's born for the second baby to maybe flip around if they're breech, or are they okay with attempting a breech birth? Some places will say put like a time limit or something on how long they'll wait before baby B has to be born, maybe via C-section.
Okay.
So
I can't imagine delivering one vaginally and then having to go.
Yeah, so some people do have that scenario happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of it has to do with, not only the family and how the pregnancy goes, but also the care team as well, and what, their comfort levels are.
What's the normal amount of time between baby delivery? Like, is it not?
There isn't really a standard. I've known twin families that, if we're talking a vaginal delivery, baby A was born, and then 2 minutes later, baby B was born. I've known others that, it was a couple hours in between.
Wow.
So generally a standard.
That would be crazy if they were born on different days.
There was a set of twins recently in Boston. Yeah, they were born. It was like 11:58 and then 12 something.
Right.
And then there was another set. I don't remember where they were from, but they straddled the days like that, but it was for a leap year. So technically, like, one of them was going to be older if you counted like number of birthdays versus.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's really fun.
Yeah,
you could always the party tricks that they have just by saying we're twins, but we're doing the same birthday. It's crazy. Anyway, I'm a dork. Wow. So, I heard recently, you can tell me if I'm completely off on this, that if you are pregnant with twins and you want to try vaginal delivery, that it's in the OR? Is that true across the board?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason they do that is because if, for instance, something goes wrong, either before either twin is delivered or after the first one is delivered, they don't have to waste time getting you in the room, getting prepped.
Because there's more likelihood of that.
Yeah, so if there's an emergency and they do need to swap to a C-section, it can be done quickly. So you'll probably labor in a regular delivery room for a while, but then when it comes time to actually deliver the babies, you'll be in the OR.
Okay. So I've only ever had C-sections, so all of mine have been delivered in the OR, and all I remember is just it being so cold. I can't imagine. I can't imagine that. That sounds awful. Sorry for all you twin moms. I have to do that. Wow. Okay. So now babies are born. Ta-da. Praise the Lord. Miracle of life. What's it like those first couple of days after? Like, what are some of the struggles and surprisingly easy, if there are any?
Anything's easy. Part of it has to do with a lot of multiples do come early. So part of it has to do with how prematurely they're born. A lot of, especially higher order multiples, tend to come, even earlier. The average gestational age for a twin pregnancy is like 35, 36 weeks.
Which is pretty good.
It's pretty good. Triplets are usually about 33, 34. That's their average. Quads are about 29. Obviously, every pregnancy is different. My three were born at 29 weeks. I know another triple mom who carried hers until the 37. So it's, it totally depends.
So how big were yours when they were born at 29 weeks?
They were right around 3 pounds. One was right over. The girls were right under.
Wow.
So the first couple days can be very different depending on, if the babies are coming home with you. If it's a C-section and you're in the hospital for an extended period of time. If you get to go home and the babies are staying. It's
all sorts of scenarios.
Yeah, there are a lot of different things that can happen. I think across the board, most people are just kind of shocked when you actually see them lined up for the first time. They're like, they're all coming home with me eventually. Like, what?
Yeah.
What do I do?
I thought it was overwhelming with one.
Yeah, and I mean, there are days now, but it's still, I'll wake up and be like, oh yeah, no, there are 3 of you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's happening.
I wake up that way too, but mine aren't all the same age.
The At least I'm done with diapers, though.
That's true. We are having this conversation earlier. Don't rub it in.
Oh, that was such a happy day. I was like, potty training multiples, that was harder than anything else.
Oh my word.
Up until that point.
I can't even imagine.
That was fun. The conversation wasn't even who pooped under the coffee table, it was who has touched the poop that is under the coffee table. I called my husband at work, I was like, I don't, the words that I just said, I never imagined I would say that. What, this is life. And he was like, oh, okay. I'll be home as soon as I can.
Right? I know, there's days where I'm just like, calling my husband in panic. And mine are, again, are multiples, and I'm just like, I need you, I can't do this, I'm gonna die.
I think no matter how many children you have, I think everybody hits that point. Sometimes.
Yeah. It's reassuring.
Yeah.
We're good company.
So.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. So, potty training. I don't even want to have that conversation yet. We'll get there. Let's just talk about this first year of life.
Mm-hmm.
What's, after everyone's home,
Mm-hmm.
what's adjusting, like what are some tips that you could have for adjusting to life at home?
I think there are two things to be mindful of. The first is just you need to be kind to yourself. Mm-hmm. It's hard. I think especially just the way our culture is set up, there's the whole myth of the super mom or super parent that you feel like you have to do it all. Mm-hmm. And I think with one baby that's unrealistic. Mm-hmm. With more than one, that's absolutely unrealistic. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of pressure on families to, feel like they've got it under control, they can do all of it. And I think it's important that people realize it's okay to ask for help, especially when you are dealing with, a situation that is a little outside of the norm. Mm-hmm. Your main job should be keeping the babies alive and keeping yourself alive. Anything else can be outsourced. If it can't be outsourced, it doesn't need to be done.
And some of that can be outsourced too, like with postpartum doulas, for instance.
That's
that is a good way to keep all of you alive.
Keep everybody alive, yeah. I think it's stressful. Obviously, any newborn is going to change the family dynamic. It's particularly stressful when there's more than one. Mm-hmm. I think every parent, your gut instinct as soon as you hear your baby cries, you want to step in, you want to fix the problem, whatever it is. And can be particularly hard when you just physically can't. Mm-hmm. You're sitting, the baby's sitting there looking at you, crying, they need to be fed, they need to be changed. And, you're already taking care of their sibling. Right. So I think, again, just breathing through it, being kind to yourself, saying, this does not mean that you're not doing a great job as a parent. This just means that everybody's going to learn how to be really patient. And they do. Mm-hmm. Most of the time. Learn how to be patient. I also like to tell families if they're crying, that means they're breathing. So they're still alive. Primary job is taken care of.
Win.
Yep. Everybody's still alive. You're good.
Yeah. That's such a good point, even for singletons. Mm-hmm. Like, they get hurt. A cry is a good sign.
Yeah. You have to go to the bathroom. They're crying. You still need to go to the bathroom.
Right.
They're crying. They're alive. Primary job taken care of.
Best advice ever for any mom.
So that'd be advice number one.
All right.
The second thing, I think, particularly when you're dealing with more than one child at any stage, is just, don't be afraid to be creative and think outside the box. So, there are kind of standard routines that people feel like newborns should, or children should have as part of their days. So, for instance, like bath time is somehow part of bedtime routines across the country.
Right.
When you have to think about bathing 3 back to back, and then putting everybody down to bed, you don't want to have to start your bedtime routine like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's just not helpful for anybody. So I think, really looking at how your day is going to flow and ways where you can make it work for your family. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's everybody gets a bath on, a couple days a week, but it's in the morning. Mm-hmm. Maybe everybody has an assigned day in their days.
They're not going to die if they don't get a bath every day.
No, newborns don't need baths every day. Mm-hmm. Their skin's too.
Right. My kids don't get a bath every day, and they're not even newborns. In fact, they get less baths now than they did.
That's because they work. We recently swapped over to showers, and it's been the greatest thing ever because it's so much faster. We just turn the shower on, and then like they run through.
I'm very jealous of you right now, but I've got one that's 4. She's almost 5.
I think we started at 4.
All right.
Because bath time. Bath time was always somewhat of a challenge for us.
It is for us too.
It's just like knowing that mental mindset, like, okay, this is going to be the next hour and a half of my life, and then I have all the laundry to do that was generated.
Oh my word, the laundry with 3 kids. That's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, I think every picture of my kids that we have from the first 2 years of life, there is a pile of laundry somewhere in the background.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing.
So
I'm going to look. So, FYI, I'll tell you more about this before the end of the interview, but there's going to be a special download from Emily that she created for tips for taking pictures of multiples that you can download from the blog post. But there's a picture of her with her 3 that she talks about in there. I won't give it away. But now I've got to go back and look and see. Is there laundry? I think there might be. Sitting on the bed next to you.
There's laundry.
Yeah, anyway.
But, yeah.
Now I'm going to look for it anyway. Laundry. I need a laundry fairy myself.
That'd be nice.
Right?
Would be really, really nice.
Right.
I'd still take that today.
Right, yeah. What about breastfeeding with multiples? Because it can be done. Mm-hmm. So, I've seen lots of different scenarios, and, perhaps you can speak to some of these, but I do have some questions tied in with them as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of a long-winded question, roundabout way. So the triplets that I nannied for, they kind of did a mix of things. Mm-hmm. One of them was allergic to milk, so we had soy formula, and he couldn't have any breast milk, but then the other 2 could have breast milk, which she would pump and feed, nurse them, kind of alternating, that's the word I'm looking for, between them. Mm. But then they also aspirated, so they needed, thickener put in their milk. And then they would have problems with BM, so they needed prune juice in their milk. It was kind of every day was something new that we needed to, figure out. But, so, that was one thing is kind of just speaking to, different ways that you can make things work. And then advice with that, with pumping and feeding, etc. And then I also had a client of twins once that I saw a couple months after she was here with her newborns, who were super adorable. And by the time I saw them again, they didn't even look like the same babies. They'd grown up so much. But she had a lot of cold sores, which she said is apparently very common when you're breastfeeding multiples because it takes so much of your own minerals, etc., or whatever.
I've actually never heard that.
Vitamins. I don't know what she said, but it was a long time ago that I talked to her about this. But I was going to ask if you had ever run into that or dealt with that.
I've never heard that one.
Okay.
In terms of breastfeeding multiples, it can be done. I feel like, similarly to the pregnancy and the actual birth, it's going to be different for every family. There's no, one-size-fits-all answer. Some twins and triplets are exclusively breastfed. Some people go straight to bottles, whether it's pumping or formula. Some do a combination of both. Personally, we did a combination, so the babies were kind of a rotation as to who was going.
How do you keep track of who's going when?
You have to write everything down. That's the only way to keep track. Keep track of who ate what, who ate when, who pooped. Yeah, it's a lot of paperwork. Which now it's kind of fun to go back and look through the notebooks that we have.
You're a firstborn, so that probably came naturally to you. Not naturally, but I'm the youngest in my family, so
I like to think I'm pretty organized.
Really, I'm not so much.
That definitely, I think, worked to our advantage with the 3. But yeah, I think, whether, no matter how you're feeding them, there's a lot of keeping track of things just until you get out of the initial kind of sleep deprivation phase. And it's just helpful to make sure, you're tracking the outputs to make so that everybody's getting what they need. But yeah, like I said, it doesn't, unfortunately, there's no, this is the way everybody should do it and we'll go wonderfully. A lot of it depends on what is the best fit for your family. Typically, it does involve some amount of pumping, particularly if your babies are in the NICU or they can't latch right away. If breastfeeding is a goal, then you do need to start pumping to replace feeds if they're not able to feed, just so you have the supply, already built and waiting when they are ready.
Which is true with a singleton too. Like,
Yeah.
Even, if you ever want to go on a date and
Yeah,
you want them to have breast milk, like, yeah.
Yeah. But it is, I mean, and I think the biggest thing to remember, aside from there's no one size fits all, is that, setting small goals is going to be really helpful. I know very few people that go and say, I'm going to breastfeed for 2 years.
Right.
I'm like, okay, you can, that's awesome. But let's tackle the first week and the first couple days. And there are days where it is going to be challenging. And I generally tell people, just don't quit on your worst day. Power through. Then the next day, if things are calmer, then if you're like, okay, I'm happy where I'm at, I'm done, make the call then. But don't ever make any abrupt decisions in the midst of kind of one of the worst moments.
That's great life advice in general, not just with multiples, just in life. You're like my new life coach, apparently.
I don't know about that. It makes it seem like I've got my life together.
I don't know.
I don't know if I should be getting this.
Well, it's working for me so far.
All right.
So, overnights.
Yes.
So, dealing with a newborn stage with one baby not sleeping is horrible. just call it like it is. Adding more, they're more little human beings. They're going to have their own personalities and their own schedules. How do you deal with overnights?
Lots of coffee.
That's true in life, yeah.
I think the whole, the adage, don't wake a sleeping baby, definitely does not apply to multiples. There are some families who choose to feed on demand around the clock, and I, my hat's off to them, because I definitely could not have done that. What worked for us and what typically works for, especially overnights with multiples, is kind of feed on demand by the first 2 demands. So as soon as one baby is up, wake everybody up and feed them and put them back down, just so, you don't end up in a situation where they're getting up, a half an hour after the last one ate. We had one night where they lapped us, and that, I think,
that changed
that was the worst night to date. Like, we've had, stomach bugs and everything since then, but that one night where, we finally got through, everybody was fed, everybody was down, and the first kid was back up.
Right.
So it is, it's tough. I think, again, trying to get everybody on a schedule, which can be hard, particularly because with newborns there's really no such thing as schedule. But with multiples, just more kind of getting them to sync up their routines.
Yeah.
So you can do things like having a white noise machine is really helpful with any newborn, but especially with multiples, because then it can kind of mask some of their sounds, the sibling sounds. Babies are grunty. A lot of times they make they're gassy, they make weird noises.
Yeah.
And a white noise machine can help them sleep through each other, which is helpful. Blackout curtains were our best friends, because then we could control when morning time was. Right. And if it was a particularly rough night, we'd be like, okay, morning time is now going to be 2 hours later than it's supposed to be.
Noon.
Yeah. But I think it's a lot of, just taking a deep breath, rolling with the punches for the first couple of months. Again, either asking for help or outsourcing as much as you can. And then knowing that's temporary. They eventually will sleep through the night. It's going to be a great day.
When I was with the triplets, the first month or 2 that I was there, I was living in the house with them. And so we would each take a baby, mom, dad, and me.
Oh, nice.
Everyone was responsible for one baby at night. And I was on a different floor than them, so that baby would come down to my room in a bassinet. And actually, they would only wake me up once at night. So it was like a very warm room. It was really nice. That's nice. The baby was like super happy in there. But yeah, they always slept the best in my room, whichever baby it was. Yeah,
it was probably a little bit quieter too. Right?
Probably.
They have the other child.
Yeah. So, but that seemed to help, like just to tag team.
Yes,
like,
it's definitely.
And they're bottle fed, so like you could just wake up, throw a bottle in the mouth.
Yeah, and even if you are breastfeeding, it's helpful to have at least another adult helping out with the diaper changes and the burping and the soothing that might come afterwards. It's a lot to do one person. Yeah.
It was there's 2 things that I think I learned if you can call it learning when you're not in an everyday vet, from nannying the triplets was that not every cry is a bad cry. And I learned how to, with them specifically, I learned how to tell the difference between cries because, like you said, you can be holding one and really dealing with something with one who really needs you. And then I kid you not, it was 2 boys and 1 girl. And the girl saw me holding her brother. She's like 5 months old. I don't know. And she starts screaming. And so and I'm like, she's dying. Oh my gosh. I've got to put him down. So I'm like, Putty, I'm sorry. I got to put you down for a minute. So I put him down and he starts crying again. Pick her up and she's like, you want to play? And I was
now
like,
it's my turn.
You just manipulated me, little girl. Oh my goodness.
I think baby wearing is a huge
That's when I first wore babies.
Help for multiples because you can, juggle multiple at the same time. So if somebody does need some extra, cuddle time, you can just pop them in a carrier and they're good to go and you can still be hands-free to take care of everybody else.
Yeah. I think that really helped me, like the learning the cries with my own kids because I could put them down and hear them cry and go to the bathroom and be like, you're fine. Deal with it.
You'll be okay. I need to go to the bathroom.
I realize you want to be held, but I can't hold you 24/7. It's understanding that not every cry is necessarily a bad cry. And then
they're crying.
They're alive.
They're alive. Yay! Everybody wins.
And then the other thing was the schedule. When they were able to get on the schedule, that changed our whole world. It was amazing. So I highly listen to this woman. She knows what she's talking about. Awesome. So we were just talking about sleep deprivation. So I'm going to start talking since it's so closely tied to that. Mental health.
Yes. So today,
Tell me,
is the start of Maternal Mental Health Awareness Week. Yay! It's one of those topics that, thankfully, in the past couple of years, has gotten a lot more attention. The numbers there's an estimate. Some of it isn't nailed down just because a lot of this can be self-reported and a lot of moms don't reach out for help when they need it. But it's estimated that 1 in 5 mothers will experience some sort of perinatal mood complications. So postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. It doesn't necessarily have postpartum either. With some women, it will start during the perinatal period. When you look at just numbers in terms of population, perinatal mood disorders affect more women than breast cancer does.
Wow.
It just, for such a long time, has been a topic that people were afraid to talk about because they thought, okay, if I'm not loving every minute with my baby, that makes me a bad parent. There's a lot of kind of stigma still attached with maternal mental health, specifically. Not to mention, mental health in this country. Anyways, unfortunately, parents of multiples are at a higher risk of complications. Part of it, it has to do with just extreme sleep deprivation. Never helps. The hormonal fluctuations.
It's bad with one.
Yeah, are even more extreme when you're dealing with more than one. And it can also be very isolating. It's a lot harder just to pack up and go to a new mom's group if you have 2 or 3 babies, especially if they were born prematurely. So sometimes you'll find yourself almost on lockdown. I know, my 3 spent a couple months in the NICU when we came home. It was March, so it wasn't quite the end of flu season yet, and our doctors straight up said, you take them to their doctors, don't go anywhere else. So even if we wanted to, reach out and connect with other families in person, we just couldn't. So I think that, there are unfortunately a lot of risk factors that can go into to parenting multiples. And it's interesting that it's not just the hormonal piece because it's not just moms, even though this is Maternal Mental Health Awareness Week. Partners and non-biological parents too. So even if you adopt triplets, you're still going to be at a higher risk than if you had adopted one baby. Right.
I've never thought about that. How common is that? So it's 1 in 5, you said, for birth mothers to struggle with.
I'm not sure if that number is birth mothers or just parents in general.
Parents in general. Okay.
Yeah, and that's specifically parents of singletons. So it's again estimated 1 in 3 for for parents of multiples. And then, you know, when you think about a lot of times multiples can come early. If you have a child or children in the NICU, that's an additional risk factor. There's actually a really recent article on HuffPost that a study came out that 70% of families who had a baby in the NICU leave with some form of generalized anxiety disorder, whether it's, you know, postpartum specific or not, and PTSD. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you can end up with kind of this perfect storm of people who have a number of risk factors. You have a high-risk pregnancy, that adds another one. And being in a situation where you are slightly more isolated, it can be harder to reach out and get support. Thankfully, like I said, a lot of this conversation is changing. People are becoming more open about their own struggles, about the resources that are needed for families. There's actually a really cool campaign going on right now for this week. It's called the Real Motherhood Challenge.
Okay.
And it's kind of an effort to peel back kind of the Instagram filters on parenting. Not to knock Instagram specifically, but
it's social media is hard in general.
Yeah, especially if you're thinking of a family that might be their only social connection or their only outlet. If you can't go to in-person groups, like you're seeing all these other parents posting these beautiful pictures and like their wonderful houses, and you're like, why am I such a hot mess?
Right.
Like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
So this campaign is to encourage families for the next week to post kind of like the real life pictures, like the one that's in the
download.
Yeah, one of my finest moments.
I love the picture. I'm not gonna lie.
But just show the dirty dishes, show the piles of laundry, show the kids mid meltdown instead of all nicely posed.
And what's the hashtag?
Real Motherhood.
Real Motherhood
Challenge. But just to kind of remind people that everybody wants to put their best selves forward on social media, but everybody's a mess. Some people just hide it better than others.
Right.
And the hope that the more people talk about it, the more people who are currently struggling will feel comfortable reaching out and getting support, and realizing that they're not the only one experiencing this.
Nice. You'll definitely see some of those from me this week. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm real, I think, but I'm not good at posting stuff on social media, like other than my business stuff. But
I mean, the beautiful pictures are great too. I would say it's nice to have a balance, because you've got like the really, like, oh, look at our lovely children, and then the oh, I remember that day.
Well, in my profession, you expect to see beautiful pictures of babies.
Right.
Like, it's my job, but like, I'll get permission from the mom, but I had a baby in on Saturday, and I made sure to capture some of him crying for, like, in the pictures, and I had at least one in her gallery for her to see, because I'm like, this is real life. This is babies cry. Like, they're not always sleepy and happy. And
No. Yeah. Actually, one of my favorite pictures of one of my daughters is her just like total meltdown. Because she was throwing this massive tantrum because we wouldn't let her play with a electrical cord. And like, you would have thought that, we told her this wasn't real or something, right? Total breakdown. She was probably, like 8 or 9 months old.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But,
I'm going to go back through and find some. We take pictures like this all the time here. That's fun. But, so hopefully, this week, and hopefully the trend will continue. Yeah.
I'll just kind of encourage people to reach out if they do need support, and to just, realize that whatever you're going through, chances are you're not the only one who's having this experience. I actually did bring you some Postpartum Support International Massachusetts chapter pamphlets.
Nice.
Have around.
Nice.
So if anybody ever does need help, PSI Massachusetts has an email address that you can connect with if you ever need resources, and they have a warm line. It's totally anonymous, but you can reach out, and a volunteer will get back to you within 24 hours to let you know the resources that are available in your area.
Okay. So that's what I was going to ask you next is, like, as a mother of multiples, you come home from the hospital, you're not supposed to go anywhere. You're dealing with, all of the fluctuating hormones and all of that. Like, what do you recommend that they do? How do they...
I think being proactive before the babies are born and setting up postpartum supports is really helpful, just so that you're not, trying to figure out if things are normal or not, or, while you're in the midst of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So again, having the PSI information, there are some screening tools that your doctor will typically use.
Mm-hmm.
There are also other ones that you can find online. And I think either the PSI website, I think, links to some of them. But, being proactive, knowing what the warning signs are, if you feel like something is, beyond kind of typical new family adjustment. And then also making sure you have support set up, not related to mental health, just in general. So, making sure someone is helping keep you fed, whether that's, people are dropping meals off, or, friends who live the other side of the country can still order you a pizza to be delivered.
I've done that for friends.
There you go. Making sure you have enough necessities like toilet paper. It really is terrible to run out of toilet paper.
Yes, it is.
At 3 o'clock in the morning.
With a baby.
It was terrible. They're like, all the kids were up screaming, and I was just like, where's the toilet paper? Oh my God. The things that you just don't think about. I know, baby wipes can be used for anything. But yeah, so making sure all that stuff is set up beforehand.
All right.
So like stockpile the basics. And then finding your people, okay, so you can't go out and meet people face to face. Let's see what resources are available online. Let's see what resources are available. Like, for example, for NICU families, there is the Fragile Beginnings program I think it's the JFCS runs, where they do a phone-in support group that happens. So that you can connect with families even though you're not necessarily in the same room.
Skype or FaceTime.
Yeah,
or...
there are a lot of support groups that are around or just starting up.
Yeah.
So, with the idea of, okay, let's make sure people can connect regardless of where they are, regardless of what their situation is. If they have transportation, if they're able to get out of the house.
Mm-hmm. I have a very good friend who we are like support for each other. She's who I ordered the pizza for with her second baby. And she lives in New York State, so we don't live close enough to each other to like be in-person support after we have babies or in motherhood, because you need support beyond newborn years. But like, we'll literally call each other in tears with kids screaming in the background. Like, you need to talk to someone. Just talk to them. Like, they're not going to care that there's kids crying in the background, or like, they're going to be more concerned about you. Yeah. Because they love you. And that's the number one job, right? Keep yourself and your kids alive. So, that's good. Awesome. Let's go back to baby carriers for a little bit.
Sure.
Have you ever carried a baby on the front and on the back? Are there carriers that you can do that with?
There are. There are a couple that you can do that with. There's some cool ones where they can actually separate, so you can either have one on the front, one on the back, or they break out into two carriers, so like two people can carry them. There are some twin-specific carriers. There are not any triplet-specific carriers. So that's, I know one mom who refers to that as a triple carrier is a zombie apocalypse carrier. So you wouldn't do it on like a normal, I'm going to go for a walk. Yeah. But if you absolutely had to in case of emergency, it can be done. It's just not.
Just like a woven wrap kind of tying, or is it a...
Yeah, or some people have tried with a combination of like a twin carrier or a single carrier. Yeah. It's just, there's a lot of baby parts on you. Yeah. It's a lot of weight, a lot of moving parts. I really like for, especially newborns, the stretchy wraps. It's like a boat wrap or Moby wrap. Because those are great to do skin-to-skin care, and you can carry one baby or two. Right. There are some on the market that are great twin carriers, but in order for it to be balanced properly, you have to wear both. So it doesn't give you the option of, popping one baby in who's fussy and still being able to feed the other one. Yeah. So I like the flexibility that gives you to be able to do one or two. And it's nice because it almost swaddles them at the same time.
I love the Moby.
Yeah. It's nice and little squeeze.
And in the newborn phase, you can totally fit two in a Moby without a problem. Yeah. Nice. I remember having I don't even remember what the carrier was that they had with the triplets, but we put one in, and then when they're 5 or holding their heads up, one on each arm then. Yeah. So you're carrying two in your arm. Yeah. Crazy. What other advice do you have?
Let's see. So one question that I get asked a lot with multiples is kind of emergency preparedness stuff. So my biggest tip is that, if possible,
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, you're going to have 1.5 million laundry baskets. It's possible to keep an empty one or one that can be emptied quickly in their nursery. It's a great tool if you ever did have to evacuate, especially like in case of a fire or something where, you know, you might have to hand off a basket to a firefighter who's coming up a ladder, or you might have to push it if there's smoke in the house. Making sure you have a way to carry all three, or, well, my head automatically goes to three, but all babies safely and quickly. Yeah. Without having to think about, I would, you know, just grab them and run, because then, you know, how are you supposed to open doors if you're juggling babies? Yeah. So I'd say, always make sure there's a laundry basket.
I've never even thought this through. And I should. With 3 little ones.
I mean,
you're my new life coach.
It's a little bit easier when they get older. But now they, when my kids went to school and they had their first fire drill, they thought it was great. Yeah. Because then they came up with fire drills at our house. So they'll run fire drills for us. It's pretty funny. Nice. But yeah, I mean, when they were little, it's, you know, it's something that it's helpful to know. Hopefully it's one of those things you'll never need to think about. But it's better to be prepared and have an action plan. Yeah. So I would say, the laundry basket. Having a diaper bag always prepped and ready to go. That not only just makes life easier for you anyways, but if you did have to leave quickly, you know you have about a day's worth of food for everybody. Especially if you're saying with the family that you nanny for, where there was one baby that's on specialized formula. If there's any sort of special considerations, whether it's, you know, dietary or otherwise for the babies, you really want to make sure that if it's a need that you might not be able to find anywhere, that it can, you know, you can bring it with you.
Medications.
Yeah.
Smart. Yeah. Nice. Do you have one question? Okay. It's easy to take pictures when everything is going well. Much harder when it's all hands on deck dealing with situations. Well, tell you what, babe. That's my husband. I can call him babe. Sorry. You're going to learn more about that in the download. You talk about that, and I think that's one of the things you talk about.
We do.
It's photo tips. Five photo tips for 5 tips for photographing multiples. Yes. So she has lots of great advice. I've actually used some of it even here in the studio. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, nice. All right. That's helpful. Right? I mean, you're the professional. I'm glad that you think it's helpful.
Oh, yeah. Scotch tape. Genius.
Oh, that one. Yeah, that's my favorite.
Right? Yeah. Anyway. Awesome. If any of you guys have any questions too, write in quick before we run out of time. Just a couple more minutes. And if anything else, sorry, what other good questions do you get asked all the time? What other maternal mental health week too?
Let's see.
What other advice do we have for that?
So, I mean,
hashtag real motherhood.
Yes.
All right.
Real motherhood. Again, I mean, I think the biggest thing is knowing that having a bad day does not make you a bad parent. Yeah. And then that if something just doesn't feel right, don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. I know it's hard, especially, you know, when you're juggling multiple newborns or other children, who, you know, they might have their own health considerations, that it's really easy for you to kind of slip down to the bottom of the list until you're not even on the list.
It's like on the airplane when the mask fall, you need to put it on yourself first.
Yeah. You're not helpful to anybody.
Right. If you're passed out.
Yeah. So kind of, you know, keeping that mindset in the back of your head. If just something doesn't feel right, if you don't feel like yourself, if you feel like you're not enjoying anything that you used to anymore, if you're not able to sleep, even if, you know, everybody else in your house sleeps, but the babies are all magically sleeping, and you just can't shut down. If, you know, you're just feeling angry all the time, you can't really figure out, you know, where that's coming from. You know, definitely advocate for yourself. Reach out, talk to your partner, talk to a friend, talk to your doctor, talk to a mental health professional, and don't stop talking until someone.
Right. When you say your doctor, you mean your OB or your primary care? Either one would work.
Either one. Okay. I think. I mean, and I know this happened to me personally. I talked to somebody in my OB office, and it was past the 6-week appointment. And I just said, you know, these are some things that are going on. Like, is this normal? I don't know. I don't like.
I've never done this before.
I've never done is this normal? And they're like, well, you just had triplets. I was like, but that doesn't tell me if it's normal or like, is this within the realm of typical, postpartum experiences or is this something else? And, sometimes people will just give you like, well, you just had more than one baby. What do you expect? And you're like, well, that's not really an answer.
Right.
So be ready to keep pushing until you find an answer.
Yeah. Nice. Did you find an answer? Did you get an answer for someone that time? Or
eventually.
Yeah. Nice. I read somewhere recently, I feel like I could be making this up too, that they're now considering the postpartum phase more than just the 6 weeks. Like, one, they're starting to see women earlier than 6 weeks, and then realizing that, things like postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety can hit much later than just within that 6 weeks.
Yeah, up until the first year.
Yeah.
Symptoms can pop up.
Okay.
There's actually been I want to say like even last week there was a recommendation that came out around that, which is great that it's finally, starting to become part of the conversation. Because oftentimes, it is the focus on the babies once they're born, and everybody kind of forgets about mom. I mean, you just grew humans,
right?
And now you're keeping them alive, and let's make sure society's helping take care of you too. So hopefully that becomes standard.
Yeah.
That there's a lot more both before and past the 6 week, kind of traditional 6 week checkup.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Shocked at how, I was like, oh, I've nannied infant triplets. I know a lot. I'm shocked. I should have known. I'm an idiot. So then, I had no idea, for instance, that women with multiples were so much more at risk for all the mental health things, and, I don't know why that didn't occur to me before, but that's awesome. It's
one of those things that, hopefully you never have to think about it.
Right.
But if you do, it's better to have the resources.
Yeah. 1 in 3, you said, for multiple.
That's kind of the estimate. Yeah. Again, it's hard to get exact numbers because a lot of people are afraid to talk about it.
Right.
Or we'll talk about it, way after the fact. Like, that, sounds like what I went through. But, they're 5-10 years down the road.
Yeah. Awesome. So, a few questions. Get them in quick because we're going to say goodbye. # real motherhood. I want to see your pictures. This is amazing. Don't forget, too, we have the 5 photo tips for multiples coming out with the blog post, which hopefully I'll get posted in the next couple of days because I'm really behind on blog posts. I don't know if you guys saw. I have a new website, and that's where all of my attention online has gone to, is getting that new website up, including learning how to do HTML code. What is that? I don't even know. I didn't want to learn. I found a skin, whatever it's called, for my website that I loved. A theme. Yeah. That's the word. My previous themes are just kind of like you click here and it does this. This one I had to learn HTML, and I loved the theme, so I learned it-ish. I hacked it pretty well. Thankfully my husband's a genius, so he's helpful. But yeah, he thinks I should learn CSS next, because then I can really customize it.
I thought that's what he was going to do, though.
Right, yeah, I know. You're good. Did you hear that? Anyway, so I will be updating my blog sometime. Hopefully this week we'll get all of the past interviews up. I know even back to Hee Hee. That's probably the last one that I haven't, the farthest away one that I've done that I haven't posted, which is amazing. So be looking for those. I've got a bunch more coming, and then this month is pretty full. We've got lots of things happening, including how to design your nursery and how to plan a baby shower, things that are a little less medical field, which I've loved learning so much. But we've got more of those too. And there's a couple that we've had to reschedule, so hopefully we'll get some of those in May, early June. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. This has been great, right?
It's so fun. I have so much fun doing this. I hope you guys are enjoying them. And let me know if you have any suggestions for any other things you want to hear about. And if you need to get in touch with Emily, if you are having multiples, you've had multiples, if you have questions, you know people are having multiples, Emily is a great person to talk to. I will link after this to her Facebook page as well. Awesome. And then, again, the blog, you'll have all of her information on that. So. Awesome. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and enjoy this week in the 80s. I know. I'm crazy.